Well, Bolts, thanks very much for joining us.
Right.
First off, can you stop your players getting injured over the summer for all Carlton fans?
I must admit I was over at Harvard and it was a 12 o'clock midnight phone call, so I had a pretty sleepless night, but I think the first time Doc did his knee, there was a tear in the eye with he and I sitting in the cafeteria at this time. It was just a sleepless night, but he's the one that makes you move on so quick. He's so resilient. He was at training within a day or two, and you've got to replace it. It's a brutal game, this, and you've got to move on.
What about Mitch McGovern? How's he tracking with the back?
Well, he's got to stop taking screams at training
How good
and landing.
was the mark? How good was it?
Yeah, no, he's a very special player, and it was an unbelievable mark, but that's just one of those innocuous things. But no, he's building his loads now, and he should be right by round one.
What about yourself, Bolts? Take us back to the off-season. What sort of things do you get up to as coach to allow yourself to grow in the role you're in? Yeah,
so I was fortunate enough that the in-laws come over and looked after the Ned and Rosie for a couple of weeks. So that was a little bit of a holiday because toddlers always keep you on your toes. But Louisa and I went to Italy, first time. Ate too much food, probably drank too much coffee.
You're allowed to, though. Yeah, it's good to relax, isn't it?
It was fantastic. And then we're in a bit of a rush to get to London because through Neil Craig we're going to catch up with Eddie Jones and English rugby. But it poured with rain in Cinque Terre where we were, so it was a rush to get the airport. But we made it with 15 minutes to spare and had a really good time with Craigie and Eddie Jones at English rugby, and had a good holiday at the same time.
What sort of things did you do with Eddie Jones? What did he take you through? What did you learn from him? Yeah,
we talked about lots, particularly some of his deep philosophies around competing. But the one thing I observed strongly was they're doing less and less vision now and making sure they're doing a lot more walkthroughs and lower intensity drills as opposed to just showing vision. They like the doing side more than just the analysing on the vision. So that's an interesting philosophy they use.
What about in your downtime when you're away then? What did you get up to with your wife?
Yeah, well, we over Christmas we booked a little shack at Southport, so that's right down the southern tip of Tassie, Jono. So the next stop's Antarctica.
Weather was pretty good though.
No, we had
it?
beautiful weather.
Yeah.
We actually got sunburnt. So no, that was great for the kids. They played on the beach, and I got a long-term friend, Matty Armstrong, that used to play at Fitzroy in North Melbourne, and went away cray diving. So I love my fishing.
Really?
Caught some flathead, caught some crayfish, so that was good fun and a chance to unwind.
How do you cook up your crays? You just boil them up, do you? Or do you do a bit of a mornay? What do you get up to?
Any type. I'm happy with any type of crayfish, how you cook it, but we boil them up mainly or cut them in half and fry them on the barbie. They're not too bad.
They're my favourite, don't worry. My wife's grandmother lives in Port Campbell, has forever, and she cooks them up for all the fishermen down there. So we get our good feed over Christmas as well. What about the fishing? What's your favourite fish to catch?
Well, I'll catch anything. In Tassie, you can catch the tuna, flathead and gummy shark. But I must admit, just a simple flathead's a good eating fish, so I enjoy catching that, and the kids have some fun doing that as well.
Biggest catch you've ever entailed while you've been fishing?
I caught a mako shark in excess of 100 kilo.
How long did that take you to get in?
Oh, with my little arms, a bit over an hour. Too long, Jono. Yeah.
Must have been good fun, though.
Yeah, I love that. It's a chance where you're not thinking footy all the time, but it's probably when the best ideas come, when you're in a bit more of a relaxed state. You know, the game has so many pressures on different angles. So I find when I'm either fishing or back at Mum and Dad's at Piper's River in the country, my best ideas come along.
Is that where is it only in the off-season where you get a chance to get out and have a bit of a fish and relax, or in season do you treat yourself those opportunities just to take a break from the game at any stage?
I'd like to do more of it. It's something I'm learning. I'd like to say I'm good at it, but I'm not. Brad Lloyd and some of the systems we've set up with our administration now have taken a bit of the load off this year, so that will allow me a bit more space, I would have thought.
So in terms of that, do you mean just to allow you just to focus on the coaching side of things, relationships with players, so that you can really grow?
Yeah, I think the relationships thing's something that you always know and talk about, but you can never take for granted, particularly when you get busy. And when I was at Harvard, I was only reflecting the other day that they talked about what a typical day's like for you, or a week as a leader, and they really put you in a different angle and asked, what would you like said at your eulogy about you as a leader? And it's all those words like care and considerate, those words that have got meaning to your heart. And then you ask yourself, well, what was your day like? Where did you make impact on people at that level as well as doing your job? You know, talking about stoppages and zones and those sort of things. So it really squares you up when you have that deep reflection. So it's something that you've got to focus on.
It sounds like it's a bit of a focus on people and individuals and understanding them. I understand you drive the players home at different stages. How does that go?
It's probably the other way around. Ken Polson has given me a lift home and young Liam Stocker, so it gives me a chance to have a chat.
How does that happen? Is it just you just teed it up to...
I just put a bit of pressure on them and say, you drive me home, buddy. No, they live in the area, so it was good. But I use
so you weren't making them go miles out of the way?
No, I look after them. But the good thing about it is that they just chat about footy, and I find out what they're liking, not liking, probe questions, see how they're going as a person.
They must have been nervous jumping in the car with the coach, surely.
Well, actually not. All right. I smile like you, so I ease the tension a bit.
Times have changed them bolts, let me tell you, because there's no way known I was jumping in the car with any of my coaches to drive them home.
They're probably a bit taller and more intimidating than me, I would have thought.
Oh, yeah, not at all, mate. Every coach has got that intimidating factor. Don't worry. So, in terms of that, then players walk past your door in the offices there at the Blues. Do the ones hesitate, or are they more than comfortable, the whole group, to come in and have a chat on where their footy's at?
Oh, listen, it's always an open door policy, and I've tried to rotate 5 players a week to my house for a barbecue so they can see me being a dad and being a little bit more normal, if that's the right word. So I've worked my way through the list. I'm in the 30s now, nearly through them all. But hopefully that allows players to walk through the door a lot more easily. You know, the guys have been around a long time. It's simple, but for the first and second years, they're still finding their way, and it always takes a bit of time, but hopefully it's a comfortable enough environment where they want to do that.
Have you gone in number order, or have you been a bit more strategic in getting a couple of young blokes with some senior blokes, at least to hold some conversation while they're there?
I've tried to keep it pretty random, other than at least one person that they know, so that allows them to keep a conversation. So,
what are you cooking up?
Well, I must admit I'm not a gourmet chef. I'm a meat and 3 veg lad from Tassie, so...
Don't worry, so am I, Bolt.
The Scotch fillet steak goes all right on the Weber, and
nice.
I'll leave Louisa to a few salads, so it's pretty simple.
Beautiful. And when you've got the players there, is the conversation more... Does it go to football, or is it more just based around just whatever's happening?
Yeah, I try not to let it go to footy, but if the players take it there, obviously you have the conversation. We love talking footy, but at home I'm just trying to understand them as people and see us as a family in a relaxed state. So try not to go there too much.
What about the players? Do they bring something with them, or do they just turn up and expect you to just lay it all out for them?
Well, interesting story. You know, Daisy, he's always pretty quick-witted.
Yes.
He rocked up with a box. It was probably 500 by 500. I'm thinking, what on earth's in this? And it was full of Cadbury chocolates. So
really?
To my 7-year-old, he just gave him a...
See, that's smart by Daisy. Get the kids, get them on board, and then you're sweet.
Yeah, but it wasn't smart by Daisy, because Ned's high as a kite and we're not going to bed with all the sugar in his stomach until 11 o'clock at night.
So deliberate by Daisy,
yeah,
you
smart.
reckon?
He winked on the way out.
Yeah, fire the kids up. Beautiful. Do you read a lot, Bolts? What's your favourite book, and are you reading at the moment?
Yeah, I chip away. I always like the Malcolm Gladwell books. You know, there's Outliers and David and Goliath. There are a couple, because being short and a little bit of a scrapper, mate, I probably like those that come from a different angle. That's why Gibbons probably resonated with us. Yep. He just works so hard, been persevering for a long time. So I like books that sort of talk about passion and perseverance versus just talent.
Are they the type of books then that you always use to relate back to the playing group? Do you deliver those sort of messages through what you read?
Yeah, we do. The big thing is talent's obviously a thing that's spoken about. It's this magical thing that you're born with. But when you dig really deep, those that we see that are so talented and gifted, they've been practising, even if it's in a fun environment, for many, many years. So they're the messages we're trying to push, that, you know, it doesn't matter what number you're drafted, it's always an earned right, and you've got to work hard. Exactly, and that's what it comes down to, doesn't it? You can have all the talent, as they say, in the world, but you've got to try and get that work ethic a part of it. So is that what your driver is, to just try and get that out of these players, to consistently back up session after session? Yeah, we can't get too far ahead of ourselves in terms of focusing on end results, and our players right now need to know that whatever game they're in, that week. Don't worry about the other week or where we're going into the future is the most important moment. It's not even that game, it's that contest. And if we can keep it really narrow, our players will learn those habits.
You've got a varying age dynamic with your list. It's a developing list, that's for sure. How do you go with the communication of to a Mark Murphy to a Sam Walsh?
Yeah, Murph and Simo. I think Simo's probably debuting when some of the boys were born.
Yes.
But gee, he's still going strong, isn't he? But to that group, what they've done so well, you know, there's Murph and Simo, Daisy, Matty Cruiser. We've asked them to share their stories, what worked, what didn't work. Being a high draft pick, if you had your time again, what would you change? What would you continue to do? And those stories that just happen through conversation are invaluable.
Do you find the young guys embrace the way that they talk, or do they look at them sometimes thinking, what are you guys on about? We do it a different way these days?
No, I think they do, because they've got so much respect. When you've got someone like Simo and Murph that have played, you know, there and abouts 300 games, they're going to listen. And they're really receptive, so they're starting to own their career.
Simo was interesting last year, speaking to him after he played his milestone game at the MCG, and just asked him the simple question, you love this club, and he nearly got a tear in his eye. So is that the type of thing that you're saying that has to relate down to the younger players in your team? Yeah,
there's a responsibility when you put that Guernsey on. It is the most iconic jumper, I think. It's a powerful emblem on the front. And when you're young and just starting out, you're just wondering, can you get through a game? Can you perform? Will I get a game? But then over time, players realise it's bigger and broader than self. So the faster we can push that mentality, the better. And you know, you look at a Simo, he's lighter than I, but he still goes back with the flight, and that's his brand. But that's because he respects the jumper so much.
Yeah, he's tough. Don't worry about that. What about yourself? You talk about communication. You sometimes jump in the car or you have your barbecues. You on the text at all? Are you to the younger guys in the team?
Well, I am on the text a little bit, but I must admit I'm more of a handshake man.
Okay.
Look you in the eye and have a conversation. So if there's something that needs to be explored a little bit more, I'd probably avoid the text. And
so have you got a favourite emoji or anything like that you'll throw
that's thumbs
out?
up.
Yeah, that's
about all I go to.
Not the fist pump?
They probably think I'm a bit boring there, John.
Not at all. So
cheers.
Is it something you need to continue to look at in yourself in terms of, OK, well, this is the way that the young guys communicate, or do you leave that to sort of the other coaches or other people within the club to sort of just, I suppose, communicate in different ways with these guys?
Yeah, I think everyone learns and communicates in different ways, and as a coach, you've got to adapt. But the one thing you try to do is understand players' motives. They tell their story, where they've come from, and what's been their challenges. And when you understand a bit of their life story, you start to connect, and you've got really good conversation starters, and you know what's deep inside. That takes time. And teams that have been together for extended period understand that, and that really helps. It's a link to relationships, but also performance.
Do these young players have different hobbies to what we're probably used to back in the day?
Oh, yeah, I know a lot of them are on. They have a bit of a laugh that I stir them up about how much time they're on those damn computer games.
Yes.
I don't understand it. I was out the back in the country running around the bush, probably more than that. But so they have a laugh and a joke every time I bring that conversation up. But they still get away surfing a lot. I know Cripper gets down the coast with a few of them and they have a surf. So I'm glad that they're actually spending time together outside of the club.
So fortnight, mate, it's not something that's high on your radar?
Nah, just throw that one away. I'm not a big fan of that fortnight. I don't understand it, but there's a lot of wasted time.
Don't worry, there's a few more coming out too that I'm sure will attract the attention of the playing group. Do you look at other coaches? Have you got any other mentors outside of the game, or are there people over the years? You mentioned Eddie Jones this summer, but is there anyone else that has helped shape you as a coach? Yeah, there's lots. I've tried to never have any preconceived ideas of people and then block. I think that's really dangerous. But over the course of years, I've been in touch with Chris Fagan for a long time. He's been a really good friend and mentor. Clarko and I always connect. Now they're opposition coaches. It's a bit difficult. How do those conversations go? Do you still keep in touch a fair bit? Yeah, we do. But you obviously don't get into the nitty-gritty of the game itself, and we usually have a blanket rule that a week before and a week after a game... Don't talk. We don't talk because we're all highly competitive. But, no, really good friends. I've kept in touch with David Rath, who's now at the AFL. And I also have
a guy who was in the Tasmanian Police Force, who was a assistant coach for me at North Hobart days years ago, who on any moral dilemmas I touch base with a lot. But also think, funnily enough, some of your best mentors are actually at your own club. Feedback from your assistant coaches.
How's Wolsey going back at the Blues?
Yeah, really good. He's passionate. I must admit, I didn't know Wolsey at all other than I understood what he'd achieved in the game. But when he said he wanted to help, he didn't want any money, he didn't want a paid role.
Yep.
He just wants to see Carlton good again, and he's happy to sit one back and not interfere, but if he notices something, words of advice, he'll come and whisper it in our ears. So
the players as well. Does he talk to the playing group?
I think he might do time to time, but it's more of a mentor for the coaches to have someone that's sitting one back who's not there all the time, and also for myself. So he's been terrific.
Well, Bolts, there's always additions to your family at different stages. I understand you got a new puppy at home.
Yeah, well, I remember saying to the boys, I wouldn't mind. You know, a blue heeler or a red heeler or maybe a Labrador. Anyway,
What have you gone with?
Well, not my choice, but
Okay.
I must admit, right now we've got a miniature dachshund, and her name's Dulcie,
Yes.
and the kids just love her to death. But I'm a bit nervous bringing her into the club because the boys will probably give a stare on who's got the longest legs, I would have thought. So a miniature dachshund.
Yes.
But it's got small man syndrome.
Yeah, it's a bit angry, can get a little bit sort of chirpy.
We've got a cat there as well, so the cat's been there
How's
for a
that
few
relationship
years.
going?
Well, the dog's taking over, so
Really?
yeah, definitely got that.
I'm
that
tipping
syndrome.
it just adds a little bit of fun to the household, though.
Yeah, all fun, but a bit of cleaning up and sleepless nights when they first settle in.
Inside or outside?
In and out dog, but I'm worried that it makes it. I'm really hopeful that Dulcie doesn't end up in the bedroom.
Yeah, no, don't worry. No. Always close that
Close the
door.
door.
Inside's, I'm the same. Inside's okay, just not on my bed.
No, that's it.
Not on my bed. How do you generate motivation when the results like last year, you can see the growth in the group, but not getting the wins on the board? How do you maintain that motivation within the group?
Yeah, well, we need to have a really strong purpose on what we're going to be. And, you know, we've been inconsistent in that purpose. So that's driving the players. The other thing, when you've got that higher purpose and some autonomy, so players are in a program. And all players go and live the program, but to have flexibility in that program where they can go and own their career, go and chase the best players and look and understand that, like the Cam Polson example. Time in the program where they can work on specific craft. In other words, they're owning their career. That really maintains strong motivation because they're in control. So keep focusing on our higher purpose, who we want to be, our identity, and having autonomy seems to keep the players really strongly motivated.
Some teams in the competition, Brisbane's getting a lot of chat at the moment with the way that, you know, they look like they might go as a footy club because of the list they've been able to develop.
Yeah.
You're very similar in terms of the picks you've had in the last few years, that the type of talent that is really starting to grow within your club. How far can you go this year? How much can you improve as a footy club?
Yeah, we're looking for considerable improvement, and the reason we don't put a number on that is for a couple of reasons. One, we don't want to have a ceiling. I think it'd be mad with a young group that can snowball quick to put a ceiling. The other reason we're not putting a number on that is we don't want our players looking too far ahead. They've got to understand that when that Guernsey's on, that game, that contest is the most important thing. So there's a reason that's deliberate around not putting a number on it, but there's no ceiling.
There's a lot of positivity, but is there any times where you might sit back and question what you've done, or how can I do this better?
That's every day we ask, can we do it better? We're steadfast in this rebuild, the way we've gone about it, that we're going to get young talent in and grow it. So there's no questions in that space. No questions in how united our football club's been. Kane Little, Mark Lejudice, Stephen Silvani, we've really enjoyed that. But we always evaluate what we're doing, how we can do it, and if so, can we do it any better?
You started the journey a couple of years ago.
Yep.
A couple of years ago. Then you got the sprouts and everything else, which you've had a bit of fun with along the way, which has been good. Now, it seems like to me that you're starting to be a bit more serious with the maybe third, fourth, fifth year type players at your footy club for that growth.
No doubt. we know with a young group you can have inconsistencies, and we're pushing really hard to try and make them more consistent. However, the fourth years, Jacob Wiedering, Jack Silvani, David Cunningham, Harry Mackay, Charlie Curnow, I think around your fourth year you've got a real appreciation of what it takes to be an AFL footballer. You've had the highs and lows, you've had enough games, so expectation does and should rise on that group. As Sam Walsh, I think we're going to smile at some things, and then sometimes you won't, because that's what happens with a first-year player. But around your fourth year, I think expectation grows, and so it should for that group.
Yeah, I agree. So you've got your top end and you've got your young guys coming into the club.
Yep.
You've mentioned about 5 guys there. Have you got the 10 to 15 guys that can take your club for the next 5 to 6 years through to play some serious finals football in that group there?
Yes, and the reason I say yes so quickly is this group is growing up together. So, yes, they've got a responsibility to take the Carlton Football Club forward, but because their friendships are so tight, they'll want to do it for each other, and that's really important. And that's part of the strategy. Get a young group to grow together and be really tight-knit as mates, as well as have the responsibility of taking us forward.
What are your favourite sayings as a coach, or what do the players give you feedback on, more importantly, about what you say all the time?
Well, Jack Silvani did a little skit over at camp where they took the mickey out of all of us.
That's very courageous, actually.
Yeah, it is courageous.
Yes.
And I didn't realise it, but I must be saying you got a minute, lad, a fair bit when I want to have a chat. So they've taken the mickey out of me on that front. But I do say it's an us, not me mentality a lot, because it's all about the group and the collective more than the individual. So I'm sure they have a bit of fun with that as well. Do
the players realise coaches never forget a thing?
I think they do. We've got memories like elephants. Yeah.
But that must show the dynamic of the group, and it sounds like you take it in the right way as well. You've
got to be able to laugh at yourself.
Yep.
You know, we're so serious, and there's times to be really serious, but there's times to show the human element and have a laugh. And I think this year, more than any pre-season, probably, we've understood that the game's not perfect. There are mistakes, and you can show some personality, and I think that's starting to show in the players as well. I'll throw some quick-fire questions at you just to finish. Best performer over the pre-season? There's multiples, but I'm going to back a young kid in Walsh. OK, beautiful. That's big call, straight up. Strongest player at the club? Strongest? Oh, well, the big unit, Cripps, isn't it? Yeah, have to be. What does he bench? Can you just... know on the top? I think he's trying to lighten up a little bit, so I'm not sure right now. But listen to me, what does he bench? What does he squat? How well am I going? I don't know. You have to ask Andrew Russell, but a lot. He's just built of muscle, isn't he? Yeah, he is. Quickest player at the club? Pickett. Yeah? Yeah. What's his 20? Oh, good question, but he's electrifying. Yeah, it was really, unfortunately, he hurt himself. Yeah. Yep. Player who works on his guns in the gym the most? Ed Curnow, I reckon. I think they've caught him looking in the mirror a few times, Ed. Yeah. Oh, very good. Which player, though, has the best footy smarts? Sam Docherty. Yeah, he's another Luke Hodge type. You can see the game really clearly from behind the ball. I know he's been injured, obviously, the last couple of years. Does that allow him to grow in terms of the way he sees the game, his coaching for his future as well? Yeah, we all want him out there and we'd rather that. But in terms of his own development as a person, as a coach, and his ability to connect to the group whilst injured has been outstanding. So we always say it'd be great if you could coach before you play. He's had that luxury. Who's the coach's pet? They'd probably have a stir and say young Fisher. He's one I can look in the eye, Jono. And what makes you smile, Bolt? Just those who compete. I smiled at the end of camp when Gibbons, the Curnows weren't like this. He knocked them over in the running. So yeah, right. Those who just work incredibly hard. And in the coach's box, we'll often see you sort of turn around and put the hand over the mouth. But have you ever injured yourself in the coach's box? No, but I've exhausted myself because I can go for a lot of walks. So you do disappear at times. Probably need an oxygen mask at the end of it. Who calms you down in those situations? Does anyone pull you back, or they just let you go and then you just get it out of your system and then you get back in focus? It's get it out of the system and then reset. You do it pretty quickly. So it just shows how passionate we are about the Carlton Footy Club moving forward. Bolts, we can see that, mate. We appreciate your time. Thanks very much for joining us. Thanks for having me. Well done, mate. Good man. Good work. Cheers.